Welcome back to the show. It's Hal Sparks, Mega Worldwide. Before the break, I teased a little bit, as I am wont to do, and our dear friend Philip Bittner, of course, knows about this, and Johnny Million's going to get to learn about this live on the air, which I think is fun. That Johnny Million, do you remember who we traded Brittany Griner for?
Oh.
Mm-hmm. It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Old
the guy? Merchant of Death?
Yeah, does that ring a bell? The Merchant of Death? Does that Chevy Chase's
I do remember a lot of people crying that it was not an even trade.
Yes, right. Okay. So it was a guy named Victor Boot, who they called the Merchant of Death. Nicolas Cage was starring the movie about him. There's arguments that that Chevy Chase's character in Deal of the Century is based on the I guess the myth about the guy back in the day, or whoever he took his job from. Same, like whoever he came up under. So it's been around in American, pop culture. It's been B grade, C grade action movie pop culture and comedy for a long time, this Victor Boot fella. And he decided to step up and do some stand-up of his own because Victor Boot had some advice for Donald Trump. Oh. He wrote Trump a telegram note, because that's where creeps hang out and write to each other. And he wrote, "I believe your life is in peril. The Biden administration will not stop just by dragging you through the court/prison industrial complex." The nerve of this guy. Prison industrial oh God. "They would sooner end your life than let you stand in their way." Bout told Trump, whom he has long admired, that he would find a, quote, safe haven from here that you could lead the fight for the American people. He means Russia. He thinks Donald Trump should escape to Russia. And all I can say is I guarantee it has occurred to him occasionally.
Yeah, hasn't that been the plan?
Right. Yeah. This is this guy's special. And Victor Boot, Phil, we haven't heard much from him. This is, I think, the first we've heard from him since the exchange, except for maybe
bits and bobs.
Yeah.
He did a couple of things. He sat down and I think he did an interview with Butina.
Right. Right. Yeah, the other escapee.
The spy, one of the Russian spies who infiltrated. I think he sat down and did an interview with her. He's kind of been around, but this is the biggest profile thing he's done since the Butina interview.
Right.
And, he's an arms dealer. He's a really bad guy. I was one of those who was concerned about exchanging him for Griner, but at the end of the day, I'm happy she's home and safe. And so, okay, I'm not going to get upset. I feel bad for kind of all the people who died at the hands of Victor Boot's, machinations. Anyhow, getting off of that, this is trolling. Nobody really believes that Trump is going to find exile in Russia. It would be a heck of a story, and it would be, a Hollywood movie in the making. But the realistic chances that Donald Trump is going to sneak out in the middle of the night from Mar-a-Lago and somehow find his way to Sochi and be buddies with Putin in his mansion down there. That's not going to happen. They're They know exactly how to troll the West. They know exactly how to troll America. He's
but I think they're only trolling like MAGA and Trump himself. Use. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how he ends up. Yeah,
and the Russians get a good laugh out of it. Right. So it speaks to the Russian audience because they're like, look how screwed up America is that their former president, the orange idiot, would come running and find solace here in Russia. Ha ha ha, ho ho.
Yeah. By the way, in between discussions about how they're going to snipe Putin and take his job. Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, if you take this proposal seriously, which you shouldn't, but let's just for a moment say that we're going to take it seriously.
That's right.
how long is Trump going to be safe once
Mm-hmm.
Putin is deposed when he loses this war? So
Mm-hmm.
no, that's another reason why that's never going to happen. It would be a
Right.
stupid thing for not that
Whoops.
anything has ever stopped Trump from
Yeah,
doing
I saw
something
some
stupid,
clip.
but
I saw some clip of
that
Putin.
Hold on. Yeah,
I'm
Johnny, go
sorry,
ahead.
with that big delay. I saw some clip of Putin not getting response or applause at the end of some speech he was making recently. Is that a reflection on his influence there?
That's the ambassadors, right?
yeah, that's a
Phil?
different story. That's a different story. But yeah, I mean, we're pretty much look. The thing from Victor Boot is a joke, and it's trolling, and it's meant for Russian consumption as much as anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Trump is not going to find exile in Russia. What Johnny's referring to is there were seven every year in every country. Pretty much the head of state.
Yeah.
This is protocol. He or she greets the diplomatic corps, the new incoming ambassadors. And what happened this week was that Putin recognized, I think it was 17 new ambassadors who were taking up their position, taking up their posts.
Right.
And one of them was our new ambassador. And he went out of his way in his speech to just rail again. I mean, just named her by name and just pointed her out, which is totally improper in these protocol is protocol. There's diplomatic protocol. This is not what you do. And he named her and he just dressed her down and attacked America. Of course, the war is America's fault. The fact that there's no good relationship between Russia and the USA is, of course, America's fault. And then at the end of this tirade, he kind of like drew it to a close, and everybody just kind of stood there. And he went, "That's the end of my speech."
Mm-hmm.
And they all went, "Okay."
Wow.
Yeah,
it was
again, no
crickets.
applause, no recognition, crickets,
Yeah.
and Putin just kind of like doesn't know what to do, and he kind of shrugs his shoulders, and he goes, and he says the Russian word for "well, that's all," and then he turns, and the thing that I really took away from it is what happened next, because he organizes his papers, he realizes he's not going to get a response from the diplomatic corps,
Mm-hmm.
shrugs his shoulders, says in Russian, "That's it," and then as he turns, he says in English, "Good luck to you all," or "Best of luck to you all," or something.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing. But he said it in English, and it's like,
Right.
buddy,
Yeah.
I mean, how humiliating!
Yeah. So
It's all falling apart. It's all falling apart.
It is. And yesterday on or maybe it was the day before, but it's hard to keep track of the time difference. But on on Ross TV I think it was on 60 Minutes or Solovyov's show or whatever, the big complaint from them was that because of a Washington Post story where they showed aerial photographs from Mazars, the company that owns the satellites that America pays for, and then
That was
Maxar rents. Yeah.
I'm betting you're referring to Skabaeva. Yeah, the Maxar.
Yes, it was Skabaeva. Yeah, Skabaeva. Yeah, Olga Skabaeva. Yeah, she's pissed.
Yes, he went nuts.
Her biggest complaint is that, and I quote, "America sees everything." And I guess, or technically speaking, I would guess her true complaint is we see everything and then we tell the Ukrainians. That's the biggest problem, which says something else to me. And this is both in relation to the Chinese partnership allegedly that exists between Russia and China and all that kind of stuff. That her complaint is based on, more than likely, griping with the state people that she works with all the time before they prep that show. Because as somebody who's been on panel shows and somebody who's done these kind of punditry things, you can tell who's got an inside scoop and who's been talking to who and all that stuff all the time. And in doing so, they get riled up about one particular point before they get on the air, right? One thing is dragging them. It makes them mad. In this case, it was this Washington Post story that uses the Maxar footage and this idea that they're like, they see everything, which means that, and the Chinese balloon should tell you something, that the Chinese satellites aren't working or are not providing them the extra information they thought they were going to get 6 months ago, and the Russian ones don't work anymore, or they're just not able to get information from them the way they thought they would be able to, and so they're basically blind. That's the complaint. It's when you complain about someone else's site, it's usually based on the idea of what you're denied seeing, right? And that seems to be
Right.
where they are right before this thing is coming. The Americans can see where we're parked, and they're telling the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians are going to attack us in this spring offensive, and we don't know what they can see, but we just have to assume they see, and I quote, everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
She said, in other words, the
What
Americans see
good
everything, and if
old
so,
Olga.
then so do the Ukrainians in this sense. How to organize defense when everything is in full view? That was her complaint.
Yeah. What we lovely little Olga doesn't recognize is that Mazar is open source. Mazar is
Yeah.
a commercial
Maxar, yeah.
is a mapping satellite technology that anybody, if you've got the money, you can go and order up satellite imagery from Mazar as a private citizen.
Mm-hmm.
So she's right. Everybody can see this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the bad news. I'm betting you dollars for donuts that the CIA and the Pentagon have way better imaging than,
Oh yeah, and better than
what
that.
Mazar is putting out.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, like by
That's
factors
the
of
cable TV
10 or
version.
20. I mean, it's just
Right.
oh yeah, exactly. And it makes me laugh because it's like, well, I mean, if you can buy that, all these guys, all these mill bloggers, all these OSINT guys, these open source intelligence guys, they're relying on things like Mazar.
Yeah.
What are the classified satellite imagery looking like? And you don't
Exactly.
think that Langley? Of course, Langley. Of course, the DoD.
We all love.
I know. Look, I know this for a fact. For a fact that the Ukrainians shop. That we and the Ukrainians workshop. We get together in a place in Germany. The American military commanders and this is everybody knows this. This has been well reported.
Right.
American military leaders get together with Ukrainian military leaders and they game this stuff out. And when I say game this stuff out, I literally mean game this stuff out. It's like a big, presumably, where they basically play a big old war game, D&D kind of, okay, your unit's here and your unit's there and that kind of stuff, based on the satellite imagery that the actual U.S. military and the Five Eyes in the Sky, which is we share with the Brits, the Aussies, New Zealanders, and the Kiwis, and one other I'm gapping on. But they game this stuff out with the Ukrainians. We know this for a fact.
Yep.
Before the Ukrainians do anything, they go to this base in Germany and they game it out with the Americans. That's where the real stuff is. That's where not Mazar's stuff. That's where the real stuff is. That's another reason why the Ukrainians have a massive advantage. And Olga doesn't quite get it.
No, she does not. And the funny thing is they think if they had the kind of technology that's just commercially available, and sanctions keep them from getting that stuff. They might try to buy it through somebody else. I'm sure they'll try to avoid it. They'll try to buy it from a sympathetic audience and have it, transmitted. But then you catch that transmission in process, you're in huge trouble. It's a lot of files. It's a lot of, those kind of file transfers. They're checking those kind of places all the time. We'll talk about it on the other side of the break. I also have this.
And one quick. I think if the military or law enforcement in the United States finds out Mazar is sending their stuff to Russia, they're in deep trouble on the other side.
True. We'll talk about this. And Medvedev's comments that in many ways match Sagar from Breaking Points and a bunch of the other tankies. It seems we used to think they were getting Putin talking points. Apparently they're getting Medvedev talking points as well. We'll be back right after this.